Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back again. Oh, hey, it's May. I get to finally share my thoughts on Monarch Monsters Season 2. Yes, this is a spoiler review, which I know a lot of people don't give a fuck about because not everybody has Apple TV+. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. It's been 3 years, I know, but Season 2 takes place directly after the events of Season 1's finale where we got introduced to Kong. And so going into Season 2, pretty much you have everybody evacuating from Skull Island. A handful of people die along the way, and pretty much Monarch evacuates to Outpost 18, which takes place on some kind of ship. And if you remember that part where Lee Shaw basically sacrificed himself so that the rest of the characters can survive, well, this bothers Kate, and Kate wants to go back and rescue Lee Shaw. But the problem is, going back on Skull Island is a huge risk because Kong is not a fan of people just opening rifts on his island. She goes anyways, along with the rest of the characters. Meanwhile, we come to find out that Lee Shaw is still alive, at least for now, because the Brahma Boar does show up. Yes, the same one that Keiko shot with an arrow. I was like, oh my god, he's back! And realistically, Lee Shaw would have been dead if Kate did not push the button to open the rift and not only save Lee Shaw, but this awakens Titan X. So they both come back to Skull Island. And by the time that they make it there, Titan X escapes to the ocean, Kong destroys the rift, and then he tries to chase Titan X, but it's too late anyways, because again, she's already like, you know, a little bit too deep, you know, in the ocean, and Kong can't really swim like that. So he's like, fuck, that's right, get the fuck out of here. And then the rest of the season, I kid you not, it's just all about tracking Titan X and trying to get her back in that same rift, because if not, she's gonna cause havoc all over the place and it won't be good for the public eye. However, Monarch is not the only one that's aware of Titan X. Apex is also aware of this creature too. And I thought bringing Apex into Season 2 was actually a really smart move, because seeing the rivalry difference between Monarch and Apex was just so satisfying. And you know how Monarch's policy is basically just let them fight, stand by and steady? Well, Apex is like, nah, fuck that, bruh. We want to control this shit for ourselves. So Apex has this technology where they can control any creature by the neurons, and they just want to control its natural aggression. That's the whole point of this technology, just to like calm it down and, you know, kind of be on the docile side of things. Boy, did that go horribly wrong. And so basically this puts Titan X off course after they tried so hard to control it. And so you come to find out that Titan X is also pregnant, so she pulls up to Australia to lay her egg, and that causes Godzilla to respawn, and he pulls up on her. These two end up fighting. While that's happening, Apex ends up stealing Titan X's egg, and their plan was to take the egg to Skull Island on purpose, so that way Titan X gets lured over there. And not only that, but to open the rift so that Apex can get greedy and use and milk the fuck out of Axis Mundi. Because remember, the longer you spend time down in Axis Mundi, the faster that time passes up in the real world. So that's why they're trying to go back and use it, but to also travel back in time. So I was like, okay. Anyways, eventually Titan X pulls up to Skull Island to try and recover her egg. Instead, she gets set up, and this brings Kong's attention because he's like, okay, you're back on my island? Well, I'm about to beat your ass. These two end up fighting, but here's the thing. So there's this other secret group that's not ran by either Monarch or Apex, but by this chick named Isabel Simmons, who is another daughter of Walter Simmons. Her plan is to try and get Titan X to defeat Kong, which we all know is not going to happen. And so in order to do that, they use that same similar technology that Apex is using, but instead she wants to basically accelerate Titan X's aggression. And that's the only reason why she's fighting as crazy as she did, blooding the fuck out of Kong along the way. Eventually, the device comes off and Titan X stops fighting Kong. She ends up getting her egg back and says, look, I'm sorry, bro, I didn't mean to fight you like this. It was not my fault. And then Kong forgives her, and she ends up going back to where she came from by opening the rift, and down she goes. And when it came to the very end of this season, which I was really curious about, my god, did they not disappoint. You come to find out that there's another Rodan that lives in Thailand. And I was like, oh shit, what the fuck? And so it's safe to assume that season 3 might end up being more Rodan focused. We'll see. And again, all of this takes place in the year 2017, 2 years before the events of King of the Monsters. And if you're still confused, the Rodan that we saw in King of the Monsters, that one was discovered as far back as 1991, already dormant. But the one that we just saw at the end of season 2, this is 2017's Rodan in Thailand. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Now I'm excited to talk about everybody's favorite thing, the human characters. Woohoo! I'll talk about the characters that died first. So starting with, oh my god, Verdugo. Oh my god, she was such a baddie, but they did her so bad. I was like, no, she was fine as hell. Hiroshi also died by Time X, but this wasn't until episode 5. But see, the problem is, I didn't care for him, especially after like his stupid ass reason as to why, you know, he had 2 different secret families. Simply, it was because, oh well, I just wanted to fuck 2 different bitches. That was it! And then it was even worse because they were seriously padding the runtime for him to like slowly die. I'm like, come on, chop chop, die already. I actually was fucking with Jason too because he was a brand new character introduced from Apex's side of things. Yeah, he was a driving force to the plot until like practically he died to Godzilla's atomic breath. That's actually a badass way to fucking die, I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, this season, I felt like, again, the characters from the past like Keiko, young Bill Randa, and young Lee Shaw, they carried. And then when it comes to young Bill Randa, I mean, no shade to the actor. Again, the actor did a great job portraying, you know, younger version of Bill Randa. But I'm sorry, I just was not buying the bullshit that the main reason that Bill Randa goes to Skull Island after what happened to Keiko in 1959 is because he was simply trying to find Keiko and bring her back. I sat there and I was just like, I guess. But I'm going with the whole seismic bombing bullshit that took place in Skull Island. That sounded a lot more convincing. They just did his arc so dirty in the show. You mean to tell me that by the time that they take place in 1968 that y'all just couldn't get John Goodman for this one little cameo? Like, I appreciate the beard and the little fat suit he's got going on, but I'm just like, y'all just could've just used John Goodman right there. Everybody else had plot armor bullshit that kept them alive, so I said, alright, whatever. Now when it comes to Kate, I'm sorry, but it is entirely her fucking fault. I know that she wants to, you know, try and victim blame in some portions of the season, but I'm like, nah, simply if you never pushed the button, none of this would have ever happened. And so because of that, I couldn't help but simply be on Kentaro's side, at least until you met Isabel. Everybody gives Kentaro a lot of shit, but nah, face it, you're telling me you wouldn't be salty if your dad died because your fucking sibling opened a portal that also spawned in a monster and that same monster killed your father? Really? Sure. So when he crashed out at that funeral, I was like, thank you! Somebody fucking said it! And I also respected the fact that he left Monarch so that he can go and be with Isabel, because let's be real, like, I mean, she's fine too. But that's not the point, because when it comes to Isabel, yes, she is by far the most stupidest character in the Monsterverse. She really spends time gaslighting Kentaro to basically just join her side. And it succeeds because after everything that happened in Skull Island, these two take off and basically want to try and burn the world for themselves. And they're the same ones that went to Thailand to try and get this other Rodan to open a rift for them. That is literally the whole point of what season 3 is going to probably be about. And with Lee Shaw around, which I thought he was badass throughout season 2, he is going to be the one to try and stop it all. Tim and Brenda, I thought were pretty cool. Brenda, I respect a lot more. She's actually a lot more cool than I thought. And I was like, what? She took accountability for her own actions after failing to try and control Titan X for herself. And when it comes to May, I just did not care for her. Once again this season, just nothing interesting happening with her. Now, time for my favorite part of the video. Talking about how I felt about all the Titans. When it comes to Kong, this is the version that I miss the most. I miss seeing him being a bit destructive, like when he really needs to, and rightfully so. It was nice to see Godzilla again as well, and I thought the stakes were definitely better with him compared to the Ion Dragon, because we all knew that that fight was going to be easy, but when it came to Titan X, like, it was a lot more amusing to watch. Even though they did a bit of that cutting away bullshit, I was like, oh, stop that! But it does bum me out because, technically speaking, he was only in there for one episode. That dream sequence does not count, so. And then Rodan is finally back. Oh my god, he looks so good. I fucking miss him. Like, I know it's a different Rodan, but still, I'm like, finally, he's back in the Monsterverse. And who knows, maybe this version of Rodan might be the one that ends up fighting Godzilla, which I would be fucking down to see. When it comes to Titan X, whose real name is actually Kokai, she's actually dope as fuck. And surprisingly, she's actually not a villain either. Like, she's just doing her own shit. It just wasn't until she got put off course by Apex trying to control her. But yeah, every time that she popped up, I thought she was hella worth it, and I loved what they did with her every time that they focused on her in the water. The human, the monster skill around her was just fucking awesome. I was like, wow, like they actually took care of this one. However, I'm not gonna lie, she does look weird on land. That kind of bothers me. I'm just like, part of me just wants to think that she's probably just better off just in the ocean entirely, but then I get why they didn't do that, because then this would just be another easy day for Godzilla. They finally brought the Psycho Vultures from the Birth of Kong series in live action, and it was just funny as hell just watching that leaf wing get electrocuted. I was like, damn. They also introduced needle walkers, vine stranglers, stampede caterpillars, and the one that had me go, what the fuck is that? Was this creature called a vine rat. I was like, yeah, what on earth is that thing? I've never seen it before, but yeah, that was the only one that really stood out to me, that had me like, yeah, that's actually pretty terrifying to look at. And if anything, I just wanted to explore more creatures that we could possibly see on Skull Island, but hey, with what we have so far, I was like, yeah, this is a pretty good chunk right here. Another favorite part of my video, Easter egg references. Well, let's see. I've never heard of this creature, but it's this creature named Pulgasari. I guess he's canon to the Monsterverse now, so if you grew up watching that, yeah, you'll probably be like, oh my fucking god, this is crazy. In episode 3, when Maya's going on her computer, there's some project archives, and if you pause at the right frames, they talk about Castle Bravo, you know, aka Bikini Atoll, Skull Island from, you know, the events of 1973. You come to find out that James Conrad is alive and well in London, at least in the year 1979. I'm pretty sure he's dead now, or maybe not. This next file got my attention, but it's called Red Monarch. And since they've been talking about making that prequel series that deals with Titans in the Cold War, yeah, that might be exactly where that show is headed. Also, given that that was labeled in 1984. They also got Mothra discovered in New York as early as 2001. They mentioned Houston Brooks' son, Aaron Brooks, after the expedition in Skull Island in 1995. And I think in the year 2012, that's when Houston Brooks ended up finding out about that expedition. I could be wrong about that, but yeah. And Outpost 32. This is when Ghidorah has been discovered, frozen in 2016 by Vivian Graham. Now, remember back in King of the Monsters when Emma Russell brought up how after Titans leave, they also leave behind resources, or just simply replenish the earth as they roam free? Those same buildings that Emma Russell was showing in King of the Monsters, yeah, it's there. It's very impossible to miss. And in the last episode, Tim brings up how Skull Island used to be an outpost for Monarch before it was abandoned because of the expedition back in 1995, which is another reference once again to the Birth of Kong series, and I think that was really it. I really appreciate that there was a lot more monster scenes compared to season 1, and for that reason, it's exactly why I'm excited for tomorrow's video, because this voiceover is beyond more than a fucking minute long compared to season 1's voiceover. And when it comes to the human characters, again, I'm aware that this show is about Monarch, so humans first and then monsters. I get that. The problem is, though, is if you're gonna be having us stuck on characters that are gonna be talking, like, can y'all make it interesting? I don't care what Keiko and Lee Shaw did as far back as 1957. It's also annoying when people are quitting and then splitting up just to come back together anyways. Like, make up your mind. And then part of me just felt like some of the flashbacks that they used in this season should have been used more in season 1, so that way we can feel the drive of the story really kicking more in season 2, but whatever. And then what really hurt the plot for the humans here is when they eventually lose track of Titan X after Apex's failed attempt of trying to control it, they're like, oh my god, we can't find it. How are we gonna do this? So then fucking Dr. Suzuki, he like invents some kind of shit that like allows people to, you know, talk to themselves in the past while they're in the present. I'm like, oh my god, what? And if all of this hurts your head, I didn't write the fucking shit. Anyways, basically, older Lee Shaw was telling his past self to put this hourglass tracker on Titan X, and that allows them to literally figure out where Titan X is headed, and that was towards Australia. I was like, I guess. So for that reason, that's why I give it a 7.5 out of 10. So, I mean, that's really not bad. Do I recommend watching this season? I mean, yes and no. Yes, if you have nothing else better to do. No, if you fuck with the movies more over the show. Because again, I still feel like both seasons 1 and 2 do not have any effects at all with the movies. at least for now. But it's also a good thing because it's not one of those shows where it's like, oh, well, you're required to watch this if you want to understand, you know, GSK Supernova. It's nothing like that at all. If there's anything that I missed that you guys want me to talk about for a separate video, let me know in the comments below. Other than that, season 1, 7 out of 10. Season 2, 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you love the Monsterverse, and I'll see you guys the next time. Peace!